Hello students, I hope you are all fine and in good health. In my previous audio presentation, I discussed few reference to the context question answers. In this audio presentation, I will discuss some textbooks questions, NCERT definitely, NCERT questions and answers. So let's get started. See, it is written at the top, questions from textbook solved. So let us come to the very first question. See, it is written, how do denizens and chivalric add to our understanding of the tiger's attitude? Very important question. Look at the answer. Like all beasts of prey, the tigers are the denizens of the forest. They live far away from human settlements. The tigers, they live in the jungles, or rather to say, they live in the forest. They live far away from the human settlements. They are called chivalric. They are courageous, they are bold, and they are being referred in the poem as chivalric. This indicates the majestic and honorable position that they occupy in the world of animals. When the tigers been termed as chivalric, that means the tigers in the animal world, they occupy a very highest position. They occupy a highest position in the animal world. So the use of the words denizens and chivalric adds to our understanding of the tiger's attitude. So the words like denizens and chivalric, ultimately it signifies the tiger's attitudes. So these things are very much interrelated with the embroidered tigers created by Aunt Jennifer. Now dear students, I am moving on to question number 2. See, it is written, why do you think Aunt Jennifer's hands are fluttering through her wool? In the second stanza, why is she finding the needle so hard to pull? Why she is feeling uncomfortable? And why it is very much difficult for her to pull the needle while she was doing the embroidery work? Why it was very hard for her to pull? Now see the answer. Aunt Jennifer is weaving tigers on the panel, because weaving is a part that is related with embroidery, and she was very good at it, though her husband never encouraged. Her husband discouraged her every now and then, and she used to be very scared of her husband, though she used to practice doing embroidery during her leisure hours. So I am repeating, Aunt Jennifer is weaving tigers on the panel. Her hands are moving about her wool. She is finding the needle quite hard to pull. The weight of years of her married life is lying heavily on her hand. This makes the pulling of the needle so hard. Actually, the weight or the numerous demands that were being thrusted on her by the oppressive male patriarchal society, it was very, very difficult for her. It created a burden on her shoulders. And it seems that all these years, the weight of the years of her married life is lying heavily on her hand. Okay, on her shoulders there is a bulk of responsibilities. There is pressure, there is oppression everywhere throughout her marital life that created her marriage to be an unsuccessful affair at the end of the day. And this ultimately makes the pulling of the needle so hard for her. Now, dear students, I am moving on to the third question. See, it is written, what is suggested by the image? Massive weight of uncle's wedding band. What does it signify? Massive weight of uncle's wedding band. What does it mean actually? It suggests the weight of the harsh and tough experience of Aunt Jennifer's married life. Actually, massive weight of uncle's wedding band, it actually signifies, symbolically it signifies the hardships, the difficulties, the harsh and tough experience faced by Aunt Jennifer throughout her marital life or married life. The image is quite suggestive, and I would say personally the image is very symbolical also. The wedding band is symbolic. Wedding band you can say, dear students, or you can say wedding ring also. It is highly symbolic. It represents the unbreakable bond of marriage between the husband and the wife, and ultimately it represents the unbreakable bond of marriage. It is like a pact, it is like an unbreakable deal between the husband and the wife, that is represented by the wedding band, or we can say by the wedding ring. Now dear students, I am moving on to question number 4. Of what or whom is Aunt Jennifer terrified in the third stanza? Very important question. That is, Aunt Jennifer, she was always docile, timid, she became coward also. What are the things, or by which thing was she frightened, as been mentioned in the third stanza? Let us come to the answer part now, dear students. In the third stanza, the poet refers to Aunt Jennifer's terrified hands. Her hands used to tremble or shake a bit. That shows her nervousness, her anxious mentality, while she used to do the embroidery work. So let me continue. In the third stanza, the poet refers to Aunt Jennifer's terrified hands. The old unhappy memories are still fresh in her mind. And remember, dear students, these old unhappy memories are related with her married life, her unsuccessful married life, and the several responsibilities that were thrusted on him by the merciless, by the cruel, orthodox, stereotypical, patriarchal society. All those things in total, or in combination, we can say. So I repeat, the old unhappy memories are still fresh in her mind. She has passed through many testing and horrible times during her married life. It was a huge struggle. Every day of her life was a nightmarish experience, and he went through that torturous life throughout her married life. She went through that ordeals of her married life, and it was not a pleasant one. It was a very horrific or a horrible one. These ordeals crushed and suppressed her, but it failed to tarnish or diminish her talent in terms of embroidery, and she practiced it, and at least she raised her voices through the tigers that she created in her embroidery work. That should be taken under due consideration. So I repeat, these ordeals crushed and suppressed her. Their effect is still visible. So she is still ringed with those ordeals that dominated her life. So obviously she is ringed with those ordeals that actually dominated her life. But despite all those subjugation, suppression, domination, she practiced her embroidery, and at least she raised her voice through her embroidery work. That is most important, and that is highly significant also, dear students. Now I am moving on to question number 5, dear students. See the question. What are the ordeals Aunt Jennifer is surrounded by? Why is it significant that the poet uses the word ringed? Why the word ringed, R-I-N-G-E-D, it is very significant. What are the different meanings of the ringed in the poem? What are the other meanings? What are the other meanings related with the word ringed, R-I-N-G-E-D? The poem addresses the experiences of marriage in the midst of constrictions or restrictions, we can say. The word ringed is significant. It suggests that the vicious grip or her unhappy married life is still holding her tightly. Now, throughout her life, it will haunt her. It will take possession of her. Her vicious, unhappy married life that is symbolized by the wedding band or the ringed. The word ringed has been used in two ways. First is the conventional use. Here, ring is the symbol of the sacred or the holy bond of marriage. The other is the figurative word of use of ringed. It means encircled or surrounded. Actually, she was encircled, or rather to say, she was surrounded by the vicious patriarchal society, orthodox, stereotypical, cruel patriarchal society. That is one meaning. And another one is that this ringed actually symbolizes a sacred bond of marriage between a husband and a wife. That is one meaning. And another one, as I told you, it is written that it is encircled. It seems that The ring actually suggests that she is encircled or surrounded by the vicious mentality of the cruel patriarchal society that is subjugating her every time, that suppressed her each and every moment of her life. Now, dear students, I am moving on to question number 6. Why do you think Aunt Jennifer created animals that are so different from her own character? Remember, the created animals or the tigers and the creator, there is a lot of difference. There is a lot of difference because Aunt Jennifer's mentality is exactly opposite in comparison with her created or embroidered tigers that she created. See, why do you think Aunt Jennifer created animals that are so different from her own character? What might the poet be suggesting through this difference? The tigers are jumping or prancing. They pace in sleek chivalric certainty. They do not fear the men beneath the tree. Thus, ultimately, we can say they are the symbols of strength. They are the symbols of ferocity or fierceness and beauty also. Aunt Jennifer, on the other hand, is coward, is docile, meek, weak, and terrified. Her hands are finding it difficult. Sometimes her hands were trembling or shaking while she was doing the embroidery work, or while she was pulling the needle through her wool. At that time her hands were trembling or shaking because of the massive weight of the wedding ring or the wedding band that sits heavily on her hand. Her terrified hands are still ringed with the ordeals of married life. The contrast heightens the intensity, and finally we can say the contrast ultimately heightens the intensity. Now, let me come to the very next question, dear students. Interpret the symbols that we find in this poem, that is the Aunt Jennifer's tiger. What are the symbols that we find in this poem? Adrenaline rich. Aunt Jennifer's tiger is rich in symbolism. There are multiple symbols that we find in this poem. The massive weight of the wedding band, it actually symbolizes ordeals or hardships and worries of married life. The wedding band, that is the most important symbol. That is the very important symbol. Ultimately, it symbolizes the ordeals, the difficulties, the hardships, and the worries and the tensions that is faced by her during her chaotic, unsuccessful, unhappy married life. Terrified hands and ringed with ordeals also indicate those unpleasant experiences. Not only this, not only the ringed one, the weight of the wedding band, that is definitely one symbolism, but apart from that, terrified hands and ringed with ordeals, these are also two symbols. And these also suggest, or these also indicates the unpleasant experiences that they are still clinging to Aunt Jennifer physically and mentally. These things are still attached with her, both from the physical perspective as well as from the mental perspective. Now, dear students, I am moving on to another short question. Question number 8, the last one. See, it is written, do you sympathize with Aunt Jennifer? What is the attitude of the speaker towards Aunt Jennifer? Do you show any sympathy while you read about Aunt Jennifer as been written by Adrenaline Rich in her poem Aunt Jennifer's Tiger? Do you feel any sort of sympathy towards her? Yes, we do sympathize with the character of Aunt Jennifer. She has experienced hardships, difficulties, and ordeals during or throughout her married life. The attitude of the speaker towards Aunt Jennifer is equally sympathetic. Remember, the poet, she is equally sympathetic towards Aunt Jennifer, and she felt sorry for the hardships or the difficulties that Aunt Jennifer faced throughout her unhappy, unsuccessful marital or married life. The poet gives many suggestive images and symbols to present an old lady who has passed through painful experiences, torturous or agonizing, excruciating painful experiences, we can say, as well as many unpleasant and terrifying periods during her married life. Her married life was not a blissful one. It was equivalent to a hellish experience that she endured throughout her life. And it was horrible, horrific, unpleasant, torturous. She endured many terrifying periods during her married life. The poet had shown ample sympathy for her character, and yes, as readers, we do feel the same amount of sympathy as been projected by the poet related with Aunt Jennifer. We also feel like we also have the same sympathy for her, just like the poet had, because Aunt Jennifer faced a lot of horrific, horrible, unpleasant experiences, hardships throughout her married life. Because her married life was not a blissful one, it was equivalent to a hellish experience that she endured for many years. But despite that, she raised her voice with the help of her embroidery work, where she projected the tigers that are entirely different from her own outlook, that are entirely different from her own mentality, because the tigers, they are very, very courageous, unlike their creator, that is Aunt Jennifer. Okay students, I stop right now in this audio presentation. Please go through these 8 questions that I explained. In my next audio presentation, I will continue with some more important questions related with this chapter. Till then, please go through this particular audio presentation. If there is any problem anywhere, do ask me. Thank you students. Thank you all.